Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1668B, and today's date is September 19th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Panic, Fear, Red Lines, Hidden Message in Tweets. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, they are in full panic mode. They're spreading fear to push their agenda. And they're sending hidden messages via tweets, and we're going to be getting into that just in a little bit here. And I wanted to talk about Kavanaugh right now because we know from Q's post, and we need to go back to post 2199, this is September 17th, where Q says, POTUS, Judge K will be confirmed regardless. And we can see the entire case against Kavanaugh by this woman, Christine Blasey Ford, is starting to fall apart right now. They called her in to testify on Monday, but she wants a full FBI investigation beforehand, and the FBI already said, listen, this is not a criminal case, it's a political case, and the FBI will not launch a criminal probe into the Kavanaugh allegations from 35 years ago, because a lot of the details that Christy Blasey Ford was giving was not complete, or she didn't want to give a lot of the details. We also have Dianne Feinstein, where she was caught saying that she doesn't know if this woman who's accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault was actually truthful. But she then later emphasized that she finds the witness credible. So she doesn't know if what she's saying is truthful, but she is credible. Makes no sense whatsoever. She's flip-flopping back and forth, and it looks like their entire case is falling apart. And Trump is out there saying he really wants the woman accusing Kavanaugh to testify on Monday, and we'll have to see if she accepts. We know that Kavanaugh's friend, Judge, is saying that he's not going to testify, and they're saying that he should be subpoenaed. And the reason why he's saying he shouldn't have to testify is because he was not there. He has no knowledge of the entire situation. He has no memory of it. So there's nothing he can possibly say. So we can see the whole thing is starting to fall apart. And it looks like they were trying to delay this one way or another. Now, did something actually happen with this woman? Most likely, yes, but I don't believe it had to do with Kavanaugh. And this is why in the notes and everything that the therapist had and everything that was going on, his name was never, ever mentioned. We see a lot more truth is coming out, especially from the past. And this was during the period of when they were having regime change throughout the Middle East. Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, and the rest of the countries. And this was between 2010, 2011, around that area with Libya. Now, top Norwegian officials, they have admitted they had very limited knowledge of what was going on and what was unfolding in Libya. Where did they get their knowledge? Well, they didn't investigate. They had no written sources. They actually got their information from the media and other countries telling them that this is what is happening. So Norway went along with this. They had no idea what was going on. And this is how the deep state convinced most of these countries. Most of these countries have no idea why they're in there. Yes, Assad gassed his own people. Yeah, we'll just go along with that. It sounds bad. And a lot of this truth is going to start to come out. And a lot of people are going to start to realize that a lot of this stuff was fake, phony, and false. We see North Korea right now. They pledged to dismantle nuclear reactor after meeting with Moon Jae-in. And we see Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in, they met, and it looks like they're looking to have a North and South to field a joint team at the Tokyo Summer Olympics in 2020. We also see they're putting in a bid to host the 2032 Summer Olympics. Now, the North is promising that they will shut down their missile engine testing sites, launch pads in the northwestern town of Dongcheng-ri. We also see that they're going to allow UN inspectors into the country, nuclear inspectors, to inspect their sites. Trump also tweeted this out. Kim Jong-un has agreed to allow nuclear inspections subject to final negotiations and to permanently dismantle a test site and launch pad in the presence of international experts. In the meantime, there'll be no rocket or nuclear testing. Hero remains to continue being returned home to the United States. Also, North and South Korea will file a joint bid to host the 2032 Olympics. Very exciting. Trump. So the entire plan of the deep state to try to make everyone think that North Korea is doing nothing, Well, they actually are. Q was right again. This is a confirmation. And remember, Trump and Kim Jong-un, they communicate via letter. Trump also communicates with Putin via letter, and there's a reason for this. This way, the communications are not intercepted. This way, they're not intercepted by the deep state. Because if they used email or phone calls or anything like that, they can be intercepted. And this is one way of assuring that they really can't get their hands on what they're talking about. So we can see that things are moving as planned. Russia, they're going to be opening up an investigation with the downing of their reconnaissance plane off the Syrian coast. Now, of course, Israel is saying that Syria actually shot this down. But think about it. Russia was invited into Syria. Syria, they're defending their own land. Israel invaded and attacked a sovereign country. Why did they do this? Why were they there? And then we come to find out that Israel was hiding their F-16 aircraft behind the reconnaissance plane, so the missile systems on the ground couldn't detect them. This is why the reconnaissance plane was hit. And we can see that Israel is in the wrong, but Israel is out there blaming Syria for shooting down a Russian plane. Well, if Israel wasn't in the country attacking a sovereign nation, would this have happened? No. Do you really think Syria just went out and just shot down a Russian plane? No. They were invited into the country, so the argument doesn't stand up. We see Syrian rebels, they're going to be leaving the al-tanf area in Syria. They're going to be moving up to the northern part of Syria right now, I think to the Idlib area. And this was per agreement. They're going to be leaving all their heavy weapons, technical vehicles, and everything else in this area. Remember, the U.S. has a military base in this area. Now the rebels are leaving the base. What's the reason to have the base now? Very interesting. We see that Assad, he agrees with the demilitarization zone in Idlib right now, saying, yes, we should be doing this diplomatically instead of invading and hurting a lot of individuals. And Russia right now is giving the terrorist groups in Idlib until October 15th to leave the new demilitarized zone that was established by Putin and Erdogan. And they're saying that they need to leave. These are all the groups like the Islamic State, al-Nusra, and the rest. And they're going to have to leave this area. They're going to have to leave their weapons and just leave. Now, if they don't leave by October 15th, what will Russia and Syria do? That is the big question. Let's move on to Q's posts, because Q has been posting a lot lately, and there's a lot of things happening right now. Let's move on to post 2205. This is September 18th. And Q is referencing post 2145, 2183. And these posts were about preparing your memes, talking about buckle up, memes at the ready. Also showed us links to Facebook and to MarketWatch saying that Wired Magazine telling us that they're getting ready to use AI to distinguish the memes and actually try to read them. And Q then answered all of this with a Twitter link to Hillary Clinton. And let me read what Q read, and then we'll go into Hillary Clinton's Twitter feed. It says, define projection. DS panic is real. Deep state panic is real. Then gave another link to Wired.com. This is about QAnon, conspiracy, Facebook memes, AI. Think about real-time Q tracking. September 10th, drop RE memes non-NSA ability. That means all the other outfits out there don't have the ability to read memes. September 13th and 14th, 2 articles drop. Facebook trying to read memes. September 16th, 2 articles dropped, highlighted examples. September 18th, Wired responded 1 article, memes and Q, the war is real. Then Q gave a link to Washington Post about conspiracy theories spread to the internet's darkest corners. Q then went on to say, the power you have is real. Fight, fight, fight. So let's go back to the Twitter feed of Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary and others are now ranting like crazy. And you can see that she really begins right after her sales pitch with fear, fear, fear. So the first tweet is, I've written a new afterword for what happened, breaking down that what we've learned since it was published, how we've got here, how we can heal our body, politic. The new edition is available today, and gives a link to Amazon Prime to get her book. And then she goes on to, on the day after the election, I hope my fears for our country's future were overblown. They were not. Donald Trump refuses to be subject to the law. The legitimacy of our election is in doubt. The president is waging war on the truth. The administration is undermining the national unity that makes democracy possible. And then there's the breathtaking corruption. Well, think about this for a second. What is she saying here? She's really talking about herself. This is why Q says define projecting. She's projecting right now. Let's read on. There is a tendency when talking about these things to wring our hands about both sides, but the truth is that this is not a symmetrical problem. We should be clear about this. The increasing radicalism and irresponsibility of the Republican Party, including decades of demeaning government, demonizing Democrats, and debasing norms, is what gave us Donald Trump. Whether it was stealing a Supreme Court seat, gerrymandering congressional districts to disenfranchise African Americans, or muzzling government climate scientists, Republicans were undermining American democracy long before Trump made it to the Oval Office. With our democracy in crisis and our institutions and traditions under siege, we need to do everything we can to fight back. Here's how. First, we've got to mobilize turnout in the midterms. There are fantastic candidates all over the country who'll do great things. And we could finally see some congressional oversight of the White House. Remember, think projection, think mirror. Then we need to do some house cleaning, just as Nixon's abuses, it's funny she mentions Nixon, we'll get into that in a minute, just as Nixon's abuses of power led to reforms. Post-Trump, all future presidential candidates should be required by law to release their tax returns. They also should not be exempt from ethics requirements and conflict of interest rules. We need to improve and protect our elections from instituting paper ballot backups. I wonder why she wants that. To repairing the Voting Rights Act, getting secret money out of politics. And you won't be surprised to hear my support for this, abolishing the Electoral College. Very interesting. Above all, we need to find a way to restitch our fraying social fabric and rekindle our civic spirit. We need to bring back civics education in our schools. We need a systematic economic reforms that reduce inequality and give a strong voice to working families. Democracy works only when we accept that we're in this together. We can't just ask, am I better off than I was 4 years ago? We have to ask, are we better off? Are we a country better, stronger, and fairer? Ultimately, healing our country will come down to each of us. Now, look how carefully crafted it all is. First, there was a sales pitch about her book. Then there's a call to fear. And she went on to say, Donald Trump is lawless, even though we all know he's functioning completely within the rights as the law dictates. In other words, this is a flat-out lie. Now, this is the key moment in all this, because this lie is her premise. And if you accept the false premise, you will accept everything that follows as a result. Then she lies again. The time about stealing a Supreme Court seat with redistricting, or as she calls it here, gerrymandering. None of that is Trump's fault. That's handled at a state level, often years in advance. For instance, Michigan was last rejoined in 2011. Where was Trump? He wasn't around. But things like this are still Trump's fault in the minds of these deep state individuals. But note, it's not just gerrymandering. No, it's racial gerrymandering. Hillary simply can't pass by the opportunity to sow the seeds of racial division. And this is how they do it. They say, hey, It's racial gerrymandering, with vague and just meaningless enough appeals to our values and traditions. Clinton then gears up to sell you on her conclusion. First, they absolutely must steal every vote they can through voting machine fraud. Stop thinking for yourself. It's Trump. Fear, fear, fear. Vote for us or the world will blow up. We don't need paper ballots because that would be checks and balances. We need the voting machines, which we can manipulate. And it's really precious to hear Hillary lecturing all of us about ethics and Nixon in the same sentence. Do I need to remind everyone that she was removed from the House Judiciary Committee during Watergate? Follow this up with a few more nice-sounding pitches that everyone pretty much already agrees with and which she has no intention of ever delivering, and she's priming you to give her your ultimate yes. Abolish the Electoral College. This is something they're always wanted. Well, let's go back to Q, because Q did mention this back in Post 570, and this was back in January of 2018. In Post 570, Q says the following: removal of Electoral College, pop vote, easier manipulation, illegal votes, Soros machines, saying that you can manipulate the popular vote, but very difficult to manipulate the Electoral College vote, and this is why they need it removed. But the last message of hers, the ones that's not really for us, that's for her deep state buddies. This is a call for assassination. Now, let's look at this for a second, because there are other individuals that were tweeting out just like she was. They're all in panic mode. When people said, oh, look, these people aren't panicking, they're not doing anything, well, now they're panicking because they know what's coming. Everything is being declassified. So James Comey tweeted out, enjoyed today's visit, an inspiring reminder that we always emerge stronger from hard times. This is September 17th. He's standing in front of Mount Rushmore, and Mount Rushmore, the presidents, are behind him. Now, look closely at this picture. Who is Comey standing under? Well, it's Abe Lincoln. That's interesting. Abe Lincoln was assassinated. So Clinton was sending a message saying that we need to get rid of Trump one way or another. Comey was out there signaling assassination by standing under Abe Lincoln. So did he just give an order to the sleeper cells? Well, let's see. We're going to move on here. Post 2206. Q gives us an example. A Twitter feed from Eric Holder, one from Representative Swalwell, which we looked at yesterday, and it says, abuse of power. Reminder, Hussein executive order. Then points a link to that executive order that we read back, I think it was yesterday. Executive Order 13526, Section 1.7, Classification, Prohibitions, and Limitations. In no case shall information be classified, continued to be maintained as classified, or fail to be declassified in order to conceal violation of law, inefficiency, or administrative error, prevent embarrassment to a person, organization, or agency, restrain competition, prevent or delay the release of information that does not require protection in the interest of national security. Q continues, sleep no more. The American people and others around the world are waking up. They're awakening. Panic, game over. They are all panicking. And remember, with this executive order that Obama signed, there's no reason why this stuff can't be declassified under his executive order. So let's go to the Twitter feeds, Eric Holder. This is an especially dangerous abuse of power by this president. He places his self-interest above the national security interests of the country. Representative Eric Swalwell, lawless. He is absolutely lawless. At Real Donald Trump is the subject of an investigation. Using this power to selectively release classified information is an abuse of power. His days of unchecked abuse are numbered. TikTok. We will just mark this as another exhibit. Now, it's not just these individuals, Clinton and Comey. We also have Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, and Warner. They're doing whatever they possibly can to delay and derail the declassification because they sent a letter to the Honorable Daniel Coates. And they also sent it to Rod Rosenstein. They also sent it to Christopher Wray. And they're saying that they need this to be stopped. They don't want this to happen. And they all signed it. So the genius of Trump is that he's getting them to actually say he's selectively disclosing classified info to manipulate the public. What's the obvious response to this? Okay, let's declassify it all. They're literally falling right into his trap. And it's amazing. It's almost like their brains have short-circuited and they can't see even 2 moves ahead of them. It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. And we can see that these people are in a panic. Now, it's not just these individuals. There's more. Post 2207. Q put up a previous link. Narrative shift. Nation on alert. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals block Mueller. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals setup to firing Mueller. Firing Rod Rosenstein equals red line. What was the Senate confirmation vote for Rod Rosenstein? We know it was overwhelming for him. Why did Rod Rosenstein begin Ryan to block the FISA memo from congressional review further advancement? Real time. 7 congressional members, 3 senators, 2 former, O senior officials, +4, outside contractors, no CTOP sensitive level clearance, at SCIF DC cap, top security clearance is mandatory for admission. How is that possible? We see you. So let's continue. Then under this, it gives us a Twitter link to Adam Schiff. The Department of Justice and FBI have previously informed me that the release of some of this information would cross a red line. Declass FISA, Rod Rosenstein force, red line, new playbook needed, we see you. Now, we looked at this before. Adam Schiff, President Trump has intervened again in a pending investigation by ordering the selective disclosure of classified materials he believes to be helpful to his defense. The Department of Justice and FBI have previously informed me that the release of some of this information would cross a red line. Now, red line, we mentioned this yesterday. Now, is this code for assassination? Did Schiff just acknowledge Comey and his tweet? Remember, Comey was standing under Abe Lincoln. We know within their tweets, they're sending messages back and forth. And Q mentions playbook. Trump actually mentions this. An article from the Daily Caller. Trump urges voters to watch Dem playbook on Kavanaugh. And this is his tweet. The Supreme Court is one of the main reasons I got elected president. I hope Republican voters and others are watching and studying the Democrats' playbook. And Annan decided to take all this. In the post from Q, it says playbook. We see you. In Trump's tweet, it says playbook. We are watching. Confirmation. Post 2208 puts up a link to a YouTube video. This is Horowitz. Truth to power. Listen carefully. And here's a little clip of Horowitz speaking at National Whistleblower Day in 2018.
Please come forward.
Thank you, Jane, for that very kind introduction, and thank you for having me today. This is a tremendously important event, and I appreciate Steve making time available so that I could be here today, because I had agreed to speak down the street at a judge's invitation, and so I had to figure out how to get here today as well, and so very much appreciate Steve making time in this slot for me to be able to be here, because this is so important and something that I very much wanted to be here to speak to you about. Although I must say, had I known I was going to follow Senator Grassley and you, Jane, I'm not sure I wouldn't have come back even later to speak. And what great presentations and discussions. We in the IG community value all that you do as whistleblowers to come forward. This is the 40th anniversary of the passage of the IG Act in 1978. We just had an event here in the Capitol.
This speech took place on July 30th, 2018. It's National Whistleblower Day, but he was just published on YouTube. So what's going on here? Well, an Anon has a theory. This Anon put up tweets from Trump. we read these just before, but let me just go over them very quickly. This is about Kim Jong-un, where he agreed to allow nuclear inspectors into the country. He's going to dismantle everything. They're going to have the Olympics. So basically what this Annan is talking about, they're talking about North Korea. And this Annan references post 728, at Snowden, truth to power. That's very interesting, because if we go back up to post 2208 with the speech with Horowitz, it says truth to power. So that's very interesting. Then we get to another post, and this one is post number 731. And in this post, it has at Snowden, truth to power, the same thing as post 728. But down below, it says, what if Snowden was still a clown? Why would it be important he was in Russia? Learn. Then we move on to post 1124. At Snowden again. Yes, testify, then drop. We have it all. These people are stupid. Firework. So we can see that something is going on with Snowden here. Most likely, Snowden has already returned to the U.S., and that July 30th was Horowitz's coded announcement of it. Trump had him extradited, and we might have a clue with this. Remember when Trump accused Beijing of election meddling? And he said he was going to add more tariffs in the trade war with China. Well, it would fit with POTUS planting the seed of the idea that China was interfering with our elections. Because then he passed the executive order, and this executive order says, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a United States election, by the authority vested in me, as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the International Emergency Economic Powers, the National Emergencies section of the Immigration and National Act of 1952. So right now he's going to be placing sanctions on foreign individuals, foreign countries who try to interfere with the elections. Now remember, the deep state, they are in China. They held significant sway over North Korea until very recently. Q has told us that there is a connection between Eric Schmidt of Google, Edward Snowden, and we're all very familiar with Schmidt's trip to North Korea. But Snowden, what about him? Snowden never went to Russia. That was the cover story. He stayed in Hong Kong and provided intel to the Chinese. He was in essence acting as the deep state's man on the ground in Asia. And you can't forget Hillary selling SAP access to the Chinese, and the Chinese spy as Feinstein's driver. Was Snowden helping facilitate all this? To see him return to the U.S. and all this exposed would be tremendous. And I believe that Trump set up this executive order because they understand the attacks will be coming from this area. So the cyber attacks on the election system were most likely out of North Korea and China by this deep state. And this is why Trump set up the executive order. Let's move on to post 2209. Put up a link to Fox News. This is Greg Jarrett. If Rod Rosenstein defies Trump's order to declassify documents, he should be fired. And under it, it says, goodbye, Mr. Rosenstein, Q. So we can see right now, the deep state, they are in trouble. They are panicking. They're spreading fear. They are also sending messages about an assassination because Trump has just crossed the red line. And what's very interesting, if you go back in time, two individuals, Schiff and Swalwell, they both said, listen, I dare you to declassify the information. And they actually said, oh, Trump won't do that. But he did. And you can see that now they're freaking out. What's very interesting about all of this is they're getting ready to release the Sessions. They activated him. So what does Trump do? Well, he just pushes Sessions towards the mainstream media, the deep state, a little bit more, so they accept him. He came out and says, I don't have an attorney general. It's very sad. Again, he expressed regret at the decision of appointing Jeff Sessions as the attorney general. He says, I was frustrated with Sessions from the beginning, noting that the Alabama senator was mixed up and confused during the confirmation hearing. People that work with him for, a long time in the Senate were not nice to him, but he was giving very confusing answers, Trump said. Answers that should have been easily answered, and that was a rough time for him. Trump did not say whether he would fire Sessions, but he was saying that he was very unfair, that he recused himself, and now he should unrecuse himself. And he went on to say, well, we'll see how it goes with Jeff. I'm very disappointed in Jeff. Very disappointed. So he just lays it on a little bit more, a little bit thicker, so the mainstream media and the deep state say, this is our man, we want Sessions, because he's going to do absolutely nothing. He's not going to prosecute, he's doing nothing, which we know that this is the opposite. Think mirror. He's playing all of them, setting this all up. They think Jeff Sessions is going to do absolutely nothing. But Huber and Horowitz, they've already signaled. They're almost done with their investigation. They're ready to wrap it up. They're ready to hand this off. And guess what? Sessions is activated. They're releasing him. Now, what's very interesting today is that there was an active shooting in Wisconsin at an office building. And around that area, a reporter reported something very interesting. And I don't know if this is a message to Q, to Trump, but this is what they tweeted. This is from NBC 15 Madison. Seen at John Q. Hammond's Drive in Middleton. At NBC 15 Madison has multiple crews on scene working to gather more information on the shooting. Now, it's very interesting that this road is John Q. Hammond's. Is this a message? Maybe, maybe not. But we can see the deep state, they are panicking, they're spreading fear, they're broadcasting messages within their tweets, and they're getting ready to do the next thing. And that next thing is most likely maybe an assassination or a major event, because they know time is running out. Tick-tock. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.